Hello, Cece. Thank you for being in connection with me.
Hello, Serena. Thank you for inviting me and the opportunity to connect and explore.
Yeah. Yes. So you said you had a highlight of the week you're excited to share.
Yes.
What you
So my
got?
highlight of the week was um, following my one of my favorite authors. Her name is Susan Cain. She is an author, a New York Times bestseller of the book Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. So I follow her on Twitter. I saw some of her writings and some of the things that she had shared. And I had commented because one of the research that she did had resonated with me. And she actually liked my reply. And then I believe one of the other research introvert accounts was on there and they reached out to me as well and went through my timeline and liked one of the researcher comments of introvert, and we kind of geeked out a little bit over that, and I was really excited. So her research from her book got picked up in the from the Wall Street Journal and reported like her research on introvertedness in the workplace, which I thought was really fascinating. So I was really excited about that.
It's really cool. Yeah, and it is fun when people that you resonate with you also. It feels it can feel exciting for sure.
Yeah.
What was the research that you had commented on?
It was a Tao research that they had done in 2024, which is basically how introverts are good in the workplace, which kind of resonates already throughout her book. Um, and then there was these big companies like Bristol Myers and was it L'Oreal, I believe, were implementing guidelines that were along the lines of people who were introvert versus like extroverts who think like in group thinks. And then they were allowing like these creative spaces, environments for people to thrive in. Basically, like if you're introvert and you're more research or data analysis driven, you kind of need like a quiet environment. And so they were finding that that was really conducive to like, workplace environment and ideas and things like that. So it was really cool.
So what was the part of it that you commented on that resonated for them?
Oh, jeez, I'm trying to
Do you
remember.
remember?
I do.
Uh,
I'm trying to remember. So basically an INFJ were the universal strength and sense and sensitivity. And so they commented also being that it is a character trait that has been often overlooked and therefore it's not personal, it's structural. So basically, when our introvert traits tend to get overlooked, that basically science and research is finding that it's actually beneficial even in a work environment. So
for them to be overlooked or to have them there?
to have them there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. From what I've seen, and I think I remember a study on this that when it comes to sales and dating, extroverts, which dating is like another, the early part of it is basically sales. The extroverts have a significant advantage because they're taking more shots. They're literally putting themselves out there more than introverts, so they have um, a higher success rate um, comparatively. Um, I do remember that one, and I was like, "Oh man, I gotta practice," because it's even though like I'm quite expressive on X, I find that in real life I'm actually much more of an introvert. Not because I don't have things to express, but I'm aware of how many different streams of conversation or inputs there are around me, and I'm more paying attention to where is something that is the most relevant for me to intervene, basically. Otherwise, it just makes sense to be, as per the title of that researcher's book, to be quiet. And there's value in in being quiet rather than introducing yet another stream of noise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's important. Nobody is 100% introvert or 100% extrovert. So the beauty is finding that is maneuvering when to be social, when to express your strengths and not look at them as weaknesses, but to find the strength in what is unique to you. So, as you were saying, extrovert might be good in sales, like the face to face, the interacting, the socializing versus the research, the analyzing, and kind of in the background, you know? Um,
Yes.
like being in the background, which for me, administrative skills was crucial for me. And when my past career, was very analytical driven. And so I excelled really well at administrative type work. But sometimes they would want me to be the face of the company and they wanted me front and center, doing receptionist type work and like you'd be really good at the front. And I was always no, please put me in the back in the mail room or the editing room or just something in the back that I can be useful for something else. And I would always kind of retreat into my cubicle, which was like the environment was very organized. People would come over to my cubicle and be like really impressed at how well organized I am. So, in that capacity, when I read her book in 2013, I was like, this makes so much sense because I worked in a cubicle environment, but I had always cultivated a little niche for myself, kind of away from the rhythm of the busyness of the office. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Do you find yourself to be more often introverted? Is that
Yes.
yes? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah, but you can also be quite expressive. I know in spaces, I did not think of you as an introvert. But then again, I suppose in order to, if you're in a space and you are speaking, in order to be heard, uh, you can't stay an introvert. So um, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, you had a very interesting topic, which was gaslighting. So that was really kind of up my alley and it did fire me up a bit. And I figured, why not share a little bit of insight and actual experiences with the type of gaslighting? And so I wanted to use it as an opportunity to teach and learn what it was, and that space was really amazing, Serena, so thank you. If and as an introvert, we have to be, interested in certain topics, then we get really excited, and we tend to be a bit more expressionable and more extroverted.
Yeah, definitely. I feel quite more heavily focused on research. So there would be like a lot more units of effort I put into researching and learning something, and then it gets like condensed into like a thought I put out there. Unless if it's like a troll funny thought, in which case there's zero thought or research that goes into it. I'm like, this is funny. I'm gonna just put it out there. Um, I have a double standard when it comes to that.
I like it. Yeah, it was good.
And now my own mind is in a I feel like if I didn't have impulse control, I would effectively have Tourette's. Like
That's okay, I
when I
skim. I skim or
skim,
stemming, they
what
call
does that
it,
mean?
or stemming, they call it.
What is that?
Where you have like a nervous like tick. So what I tend to do is I'll get a piece of hair and I will roll it. Do you know how ribbon, like gift ribbon feels like the ridges on your finger?
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah,
like when you string the ribbon and it turns into curl, that
yeah,
kind of ribbon?
yeah.
Okay, so I've had this thing where I stem my hair and that's like my things. Don't feel bad if you
Okay.
feel like it's Tourette's.
Yeah. No, it's like things that I think are funny to me, and I have one, And then I had such an uncontrollable laughter this morning with Sana about it and about posting it or not. And now it's front and center in my mind. Did
I
you post?
love your
Yeah, it's
giggle.
posted.
I love your giggle. You have the most, like, mischievous type of giggle.
Right? Yeah, when I hear it, it's yeah. Yeah, it was so the post is it starts with mid-sex, so that's already the start of the post. Um, Me saying to my partner, um, it, yeah, you have to take good care of yourself because if you don't, you'll die, and then I can only do this a couple more times after. So
So, please don't die. Take care of
exactly.
yourself.
So it's
Yes. I
one of those
love
things
it. I love
that
it.
makes me.
Laughter is medicine, but laughter when you're in love is just so sexy and it's so, like, gratifying, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, lots of laughter.
Yes. Yeah. Necrophilia jokes are great.
Whatever makes you laugh, whatever keeps you giggling, that's I'm for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I this morning actually, so I realized why that joke was even on my mind because there was like a sincere thought. I woke up this morning with this thought that grief is the price of admission we pay for love.
Mm,
And it's like if you're you literally can't have one without the other. Obviously, we know that when you only grieve things you love, so that part is very clear. But then, um, like unless you're very kind of like key where you only got to love things and then you just die, then you never experience grief yourself, but then everyone around you experiences grief. Um, but if you're not that, then you have to experience grief. If you love, grief is there, goes hand in hand.
right. Which is what I'm learning in Power versus Force, how grief is on the map of consciousness, right? With Dr.
Mm.
Hawkins. Do you know that
Boing.
grief at some point unhealed can produce neurosis?
Makes sense? Yeah, makes
Yeah.
total
So
sense.
it's really heavy grief. Let me see if I can share a little synopsis of what grief is.
Oh,
Okay.
it's so fun that you're reading Power versus Force. It's like takes me
Yeah.
back.
I know, right? If we want new ideas, we got to read old book, but it's not an old book. This is still so good. So grief, um, energy level 75. So that's really low, right? On the map of consciousness, the energy level is really low for grief. This is the level of sadness, loss, and despondency. Most humans have experienced it for periods of time, but those who remain at this level live a life of constant regret and depression. This is the level of chronic mourning, bereavement, and remorse about the past. It is also the level of habitual losers and those chronic gamblers who accept failure as part of their lifestyle, often resulting in loss of jobs, friends, family, and opportunity, as well as money and health. Major losses in early life make one latter vulnerable to passive acceptance of grief, as though sorrow were the price of life. In grief, one sees sadness everywhere: the sadness of little children, the sadness of world conditions, the sadness of life itself. This level colors one's entire vision of existence. Part of the syndrome of loss is the notion of irreplaceability, of what has been lost or that which is symbolized. There is a generalization from the particular so that the loss of a loved one is equated with the loss of love itself. At this level, such emotional losses may trigger a serious depression or death. Although grief is the cemetery of life, it still has more energy to it than apathy does. Thus, when a traumatized, apathetic patient begins to cry, we know they are getting better. Once they start to cry, they will begin to eat again. And So that's beautiful, and then we can go to love, right, as energy, one of the highest energy levels on the map of consciousness. But I thought that was great that you talked about grief. I'm sure we've had our run-ins with it before, and, we've seen people experience it at a level where it does become kinda chronic, and it just becomes really, um, bad for health.
Yeah.
So
Did you literally have that bookmarked on grief before?
no, but I had just read the chapter maybe about a week or 2 ago, so I wasn't that far in the book on grief, but it
Oh,
has
cool.
been a subject, a topic that has kinda come up lately, so I found it really interesting that I should, yeah, bookmark
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's really important. So something about the map of consciousness that took me, a lot of living with it, using it, and then seeing my error in how I was using it, like that understanding, was that the goal is not to go from one level and then to reach a higher and higher and higher level. The goal, in a sense, is to have a fluid consciousness that can, in a sense, love every level you find yourself in because you're gonna go through these fluctuations, and you're like, oh, I find myself here in grief. How can I have, in a sense, love for grief itself?
Mm,
Or you find yourself in apathy. It's like, wow, I'm feeling apathetic. It's like, okay, cool. Because at any given time, you have a binary type of choice, which is to have love for something or to neglect having love for something. That's your
mm,
actual choice as consciousness. So yeah, I mistook that chart and thought of it as kind of like like you would with a video game and think you need to reach higher levels, but it's like no, 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 that's not an accurate understanding. You're going to be fluid.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or we can relate to those emotions and energy levels at any given time, either for ourselves or for other people. And so for me, because I've walked through a lot of those energy levels of consciousness, I do like to help people out of those low level energies of consciousness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Experience paves the path for empathy, and um,
Yeah.
yeah, when you have empathy, you want to care for people because you sort of feel them as if they're extensions of yourself. So
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, and yeah, there was this show I saw. I don't remember the show's name, but like the different emotions in this show are like different characters,
Yeah.
and um, there was the character for grief was this big fuzzy sweater that he just comes and wants to give you a hug.
Mm,
But if you ignore him, he turns into this bigger, ugly monster who chases you and hunts you down, breaks down your whole world until
mm,
there's nothing left between you and grief. And then when you surrender to it, it becomes this cozy
mm.
sweater again that then just hugs you. And then he had a business card. That said the only way is through.
Oh,
Is a
yes.
yeah,
I
is a cute
love
cartoon.
that.
Yeah.
There's a Pixar movie, that we enjoy watching, Inside Out.
Yes.
So there are, animated characters along with the emotions and how it like, how it's in her head and how they kinda play out during puberty and just, and then the new character they introduced in the last Pixar movie was anxiety, and so they did a pretty brilliant job on, animating and bringing into the string of emotions with anxiety and to understand it even at like a child level. So I loved that movie and used that as an opportunity to explore emotions with my own children and to help
Yeah,
them
for
maneuver and
sure.
navigate through that. Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah. In the second one, they also introduced this new mechanism, which was the identity being formed. So there was like the different parts of the those personality islands were there in the first movie, and then there was these belief systems that were being or individual beliefs that then when they stranded together, they would form these identities.
Mm,
And she starts the movie with this one that Joy had carefully curated for her, which was that I'm a good person. And then that begins to puberty hits, all these new emotions, including anxiety, come, and joy is kicked out because there's these higher priorities, and this new identity is formed, which is I'm not good enough. And then that's when, near the end of the movie, anxiety is having basically a panic attack, and um, they solve for that not by switching her back to the identity of being a good person, but by recognizing that identity itself um, is something that you cannot fixate on, and you have to flow with. So that fluidity allows you to honor different facets of yourself. And then all of the different emotions can serve their positive role rather than one of them being like the dictator of all of the emotions, which is brilliant as a uh, story there.
I love that. I believe that's why I gravitate towards Stoicism philosophy, because it doesn't do away with emotions. It helps you feel your emotions, engage with them, but not to be so led by them, I believe, because we are such emotional beings, especially as a woman, as a female, we tend to be emotionally driven, which is fine to a certain point. So that's why my psychology comes in because I'm more logical. In Stoicism, it teaches it's okay to have these emotions, but what's the better option? What's the better choice? Like, how do we look at it from maybe a place of love and understanding rather than from places of shame, guilt, fear, anxiety, all those other things. So I think it's a beautiful thing, and it's just fascinating to learn all this stuff and also apply it.
Yeah, for sure. I have two thoughts in response to that. One is about the female thing, and it's like a social misconception that females have more emotions than men or males do.
Mhm.
It's just like if you have a man who's extremely angry and you say to them like, "Hey, why are you being so emotional?" You're probably going to get punched in the face. So it's probably not a
Right,
good idea
right,
strategically to say that. But it's like, yeah, they're
right,
actually being hyper emotional. It's just we don't call that, being emotional, but it's super
right.
emotional. Um, that was thought one. That's like emotions are what the human animal runs on. It's when, and this is the second thought that, in a sense, all emotions are thoughts condensed into a form that has more momentum. So like I heard there's a Indian meditation teacher. His name is Sadhguru. I heard him describe it this way that thoughts are kind of like water molecules as in cloud form.
Mm.
So they're very, you can switch them very quickly, very easily. But when you have a lot of them and they come together and then they
Mhm,
condense, then you have rain, which is like the liquid form.
mhm.
And that's a lot. It's still fluid, and that's like your emotions, but like it's not as easy to change as stuff that's in the air. And then when you take action, that's become like solidified, and that's a bit more like ice, and so it's a bit more crystallized form. But anything that you have emotions about, you probably had thoughts about on some level at some point, and a lot of thoughts in order for it to gain mass and become emotions. Um, the reason why it's a good idea is because to assess your emotions is because like it's the same reason why it's a good idea to assess your thoughts. But just because you have them doesn't make them true or useful. So
I love that. Yeah, so pertinent. Um, because emotions and thoughts are equally as important, but they're like you said, they're like water droplets. They kind of come, they go, be fluid with it and whatnot. But I mean, we've seen the repercussions of emotional driven consequences. And it's really important to kind of keep a sense of perspective in high pressure situations, which we see that like even in the medical, right? If you're an EMT and whatnot, like, being calm in a medical scenario is really important. And now, if you're the patient and you're bleeding out and you see somebody there that's really calm and composed, you tend to kind of build trust with that person. Like, okay, they know what they're doing, they're not freaking out, So it's really important. Even for me, when I was in the beginning of being a mom, I had a lot of fear, a lot of fear. So a lot of fear kind of would overwhelm me, but it wasn't until I started learning about, like, my philosophy of being calm in situations, and it's okay to have the emotions but not to be so driven by like panic, fear, irrationality, things like that, and it has helped me tremendously. So yeah, because when you have little ones and they get hurt and whatnot, the last thing you want is to become so panic stricken and fear stricken that all logic goes out the door and you're just like, what do I do in this situation? It's important to not freeze up. And it's okay because those emotions will serve you in other capacities as well. So,
How did you develop that? Um, like if you were going from either freezing up or panicking, right? So those are the two pretty. Freeze is like the zero energy output, right? And then panic is like maximum energy output with no thought as to like if it's constructive or not. How did you go from there and then be like, all right, we're gonna assess things logically when
mhm.
we're in a situation? Like, how did you do? Yeah, what did you do? How do you do that? How did you develop that?
I would just, my sister-in-law, I have a sister-in-law who my brother, they live in on like a 2-acre plot of land out in the desert. And she shared a story where she found a rattlesnake, I guess, in the garage amongst her small children that they were playing. And she was like, she knows how I'm wired. She's like, Cece, you probably would have freaked out, went screaming. And I said, so what did you do in that situation? She says, well, in that situation, it was either me, the snake, or my children, because the snake was like coiled up. It was about to strike. So she found a shovel nearby and she just chopped its head off. And I just thought that that was so brave of her, in that moment. And I said, wow, teach me something about that moment. What can I learn? Because I'm not saying there'll be a rattlesnake moment, but as a metaphor for fear and panic and calm and action, so I just picked her brain about it. And then it gave me a sense of like courage, like, well, she can protect her kids in that moment of danger so calmly. What can I learn from this? So it's just experiences, other people's experiences, and then also paired with what I learn in books and what I read in philosophy and being courageous and being brave, those types of things really pique my interest. And, I was like, that's really cool. And then her son, my nephew, has been in motorcycle accidents. He's like broken a leg, he's broken an arm. He had an agave needle go through his ear from driving crazy on his motorcycle. So she's been in the emergency room a lot of times with my nephew, and so I would just like, "How did you respond, and what did you do?" And she would just tell me, like, it wouldn't have served, my son in that moment or even myself if I were to panic at the sight of blood or, like, a broken bone, and it was just something I admired in her, was the strength and the composure that she had in these emergency type situations. Thank God I haven't been in those types of emergent situations, but we definitely know what, like, fight, flight, or freeze feels like. Um, and so she just kinda mastered that, and I really admired her for that, so I would always ask her questions because she knew, like, "Cece, you." She knew I was, like, a worrier, or, like, I would panic, like, if my daughter got too close to the swimming pool or something, and she would be like, "You need to, like, relax, it's okay." And so it was really cool to kind of see it in action and then just take away from her experience and apply it to myself. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a really good move that is, I think, universally applicable to look around yourself and identify who has the quality that you want the most out of the people around you. So it's like, all right, if I want to be a bit more self-regulated, especially in stressful situations, who already around me has that qualities, at least to the best of your detection, who has to develop, and then just ask questions and try to learn. That's very handy. It's something I have done also, and it's been very helpful for my own development. Yeah, and I find that it goes very much hand in hand with like being able to authentically appreciate and respect something that someone else has.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's an awesome thing that you have. And the first part of appreciating actually doesn't give anything to you. It just highlights it in your field of vision. That's like, whoa, this resource is there. That's a valuable resource. And then the
Hmm.
second part of like asking questions of like, all right, and then if they're gracious enough to answer, then it
Yeah.
can be a path of learning.
Yeah, I was really glad that it was her experience and not mine, you know? But at the end of the day, everything worked out, and she just became, like, level 10 for me as a mentor, as somebody that I could, like, look up to, even though she is younger than me, but she had, like, this experience in these areas, which I thought were really, um, fascinating and really cool to learn from. So, yeah. And I know she appreciated my questions because she was like, "Yeah, so if something happens, God forbid, one of your little ones fall off the monkey bars and break their arm, you can always call me, or you can just use, the tools that I used in this type of situation." And I thought it was really valuable. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, cats also came to my mind about these relaxation and agility. Like cats are incredibly agile, but they're also like super relaxed when there is no external signal that gives them a reason to be not relaxed. So like
Hmm.
one time I was walking and I saw this cat just laying down and sleeping in the middle of a street, and it was like a not a busy street, but cars do go by. And
Yes.
then I was like, how is it so relaxed? I was like, ah, it's so relaxed because it's so agile and so responsive to the slightest change in the environment. It will
Mm,
go from like, a relaxed composure to like fluid like response.
yeah.
And it's my own uh, sedentary, static self that's like, oh, I need to be stressed because I won't be able to respond in time if
Mm,
I am relaxed. But it's kind of the other way around.
interesting.
Have you encountered that before? That like the more relaxed you are, the more you're able to see and the more quickly you're able to respond.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So, Um, another system that I like to implement in the home environment is structures to minimize the stress response, because I remember doing or reading about a research about car accidents happening more in the morning on the way to work, because people's environment at home might have been a bit stressful, might have been a bit chaotic, time management, things like that. So that for me was a big like light bulb, like, well, then no wonder people like rush hour traffic. People have more road rage in the morning, and more traffic incidents tend to happen more in the morning. And why is that? So come to find out, because we live in such a rushed type culture, and a lot of people are also maximalists. So I'm a minimalist. So what I do is build structures in my home that are conducive to mental health. So in the mornings, if we have to go somewhere, things are already organized and in a structure. So my children and I are not having like these conflicts in the morning and these stress, like, where's the shoes and where's this and where's that? Like everything is already kind of in place. So by the time we get into the car and I get on the road, I'm pretty relaxed and calm, and then I'm more able to navigate my way through traffic. I'm more able to navigate my way through, construction, all these distractions that come with driving. And then my children are really calm and relaxed in the car as well, where it's not chaotic. And I might put on like some jazz music or like some classical music, and just I'm more alert rather than the stress. Like the stress response is really um an inhibitor to clarity. So I do value
For sure.
structures. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just thinking that minimalism first, the joke that went through my mind was that you're a maximalist in minimizing. So
I like that. That's a good play on words, and I love the
like,
contrast. Yeah, I can
yeah,
maximize on minimalizing. Yeah, so that was important for me as well. Um, to try to I mean, obviously there's good stress too, right? Because like they say fear or anger is a good emotion, it's a call to action. And so I like to use that as well as a springboard to action, but not the stress where it causes, physical ailment, heart racing, things like that, especially for children. It's important for the adult, the caregiver that is leading them is to be in a position of leadership and not always like so scatterbrained and whatnot. Because I've seen what that looks like, and the consequences to that are just not healthy. I've seen households in the morning where the children is sent off to school in a very stressed state of mind, and then they can't really comprehend what they're learning because they've already had like a rough start to school in the morning, and it's not really conducive to learning. So I do value that structure. It does help minimize stress, where you can't think straight. So that's always been like a really cool method that I've implemented, that I've seen from research that it's actually helpful.
yeah,
So
for sure. I've been on both sides of that, where I have been the scattermind parent, and sent my kid to school in a uh, super stressed state, and then it's like not when I've observed it, it was like not a surprise that after that kind of a morning, she didn't have that good of a day. I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised. Then also then when and it starts from within my own self. Like when I've taken good care of myself, then it sort of extends. It's kind of easier to naturally, effortlessly be doing things with the family and the household that then makes it feel easy for them. And then on those mornings, the and the afternoon when I check in, I'm like, hey, how was your day at school? It's like, oh, I had a good day. I'm like, yeah, of course you did. Like, it's such
yes,
a, yeah. So,
so
yeah, it's
important.
real.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah. The parts that are tricky, though, are the things that you can't structure. Uh, and because you're going to have both parts of life. And the things you can structure, you should. And then the things you can't structure, you shouldn't. So, like there's I guess also the messy or organic part of life as well, or part of ourselves that's like very much alive and like allowing it, working with it, rather than attempting to dominate it or cage it in some way. I have found to be essential as well. Learning about neuroscience has been helpful with that also, like learning that what we are as a biological animal, um, that we've evolved alongside everything else, that our brain has like a reptile-like stem, and very mammal-like limbic layer,
Mm.
And then of course we have our like the critical thinking layer as well. That's a very, very late stage development. Um, the order part, the order structure, all of those are like that. They come from that thin neocortex layer that can do that kind of thinking. And it's awesome to use this part that we have like earned through evolution, basically. We've developed through evolution and like use the gifts we have as humans and also recognize that we're not just this computer part of ourselves that can do that like type of thinking, that there is this like animal primal part of us that is I suppose, feeling on so many different layers and to work, like in a sense, have fluid structures that can work with that as well.
Hmm. Give me an
What think you?
example of like a nugget. Give me a nugget of neuroscience that helps with both the primal aspect and the evolutionary end
Like the
of
thinking aspects that's developed.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
what's primal in us that we should really like tap into, that serves us well, and then
Sure.
also the evolutionary aspect of it.
I'll give you one I learned recently, and it's a fun, juicy subject, very sex related.
Okay.
And it's like, so I'm trying to remember how did I get into this? I was looking, it was something about rape, and reptiles. Trying to remember how I got into this rabbit hole of research. I don't remember how I got there, but eventually I was curious about. I think I was trying to understand like how the hell like did like what's going on inside of a brain of a person that does raping? I think that's what I was like trying to understand. Like how does that happen?
Mhm.
Like do they not have mirror neurons? Like don't they the pain they inflict, don't they feel it? Like what's going on? So that sent me on this rabbit hole. There's a part with learning about dolphins and how they have more mirror neurons than we do, and then they still rape each other.
Right.
Um,
Interesting. Yes. Okay.
um, and so then
Yeah.
um, I started to learn about the so obviously there when you look into the whole the psychopath or like the disabling or desensitizing yourself from your own mirror neurons, that's like a
Mhm.
feature that we all can have and
Mhm.
um, to various extents. Some parts of it are via like trauma or nurture. Some parts of it you could think of it as like hard coded into you via your like if I think it's like previous generations went through some stuff that then they
Mhm.
needed to
Mhm.
desensitize themselves. So
Mhm.
then you're born with like a
Mhm.
bit less sensitivity to that.
Mhm.
There's that. But then when I learned about the mating style of reptiles, then it really made sense. So reptiles don't have a consent feature at all. Because of that, there is also no rape in the reptile world because in order to have rape, you need to have consent in your like I don't know system. So it's just literally like, can you or can you not as a reptile? That's it. Uh, it's like okay, so if our brainstem has evolved in this like you need to kind of like empathize or really understand what does that mean
Mhm.
because it's for a reptile it's not wrong, it just is. To go back to the David Hawkins map of consciousness, at the highest level of consciousness things just are, there is no judgment on it. So um then so it's like, okay, at our own brainstem has that, and then we've on top of that hardware, we have evolved more developed layers that allow for more complex relations and social structures, which then bring in the idea of consent, empathy, and things like that, and like pain, power dynamics, yada yada. But all of those things are on top, so that actually helped me understand both what in when there's things going wrong in a person's brain development, how rape can come about, And when things are actually going right, how passionate sex can also play with power dynamics, which is this whole other part. I had never encountered like research on like why is it? Because I was like, with my own partner in sex, there is like fun in playing with power dynamics, and for us, where there is like a having control or surrendering control, and it's like, what is that all about? And it's like, well, yeah, actually, you're tapping into some very primal parts of yourself,
Mm,
that you're allowing them to be honored and allowing them to have fun.
mm,
And of course, we're doing it in a context of consent. So our neocortex and our limbic systems. Our neocortex, like, yep, right time, right place, right person, awesome. Limbic systems, like, yep, the vibe feels safe, it's great, everything's at ease. And then it's like the reptile brainstem's like, ooh, fun times, like, yes, fun time.
yeah.
Yeah, so for like those things, you can't structure it in like a rigid way, because then, and this is sort of
Mm,
like the some of the challenges when you get into like religious types of thought, which have attempted to create structures in a rigid way without understanding human nature first. So your structures need to reflect human nature. Otherwise, you're
mm,
going to cut out parts of it and then make life a bit more gray. And sometimes you're going to do some really wrong stuff at the with the intention of doing good stuff. So does
mm.
that help elaborate what
Yeah.
I mean?
You said
Awesome.
a lot. You said a lot, but
Yes.
what
Yes.
you closed in on is the rigidness structure, which
Yes.
I have read recently that if you are too rigid, then we can get in trouble, like with the religion aspect, which then turns into a sense of control.
Yes.
We've seen this in the news media. We've seen this in religion in and of itself, not being able you're just really rigid, which is strange because I'm very concrete thinking. I'm very concrete thinker. So this is something that I am willing to explore a bit more. And I have seen that rigidness in myself that tends to maybe ostracize certain things in my life. But back to the reptilian.
One sec,
uh,
can I put
yeah,
a point on something? So you
yeah.
say you're a concrete thinker, and yet your clothes right now are made out of fabric, not concrete,
I know.
right?
Yeah.
Right? So it's like,
Yes.
why is that? It's like concrete would be too rigid to work for the structure of your body. That's the simple reason. Otherwise, who wouldn't want a tank as their clothing? Like,
Hmm.
so
Right.
you
Right.
want that degree of flexibility to work with your system. Otherwise, it's just not the
Yeah.
right material.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm willing to explore more of that concept. um,
Awesome. All right, back to the reptilian. Let's go.
yeah. Well, how you were saying, right, but isn't it I've heard this saying as well that humans are the only ones that um have sex for pleasure. In
Dolphins
the in
also, there's a few animals that do.
Do the oh, is there? Okay,
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like, in the animal kingdom, it's strictly for procreation.
No, they also do it for trade, for peacemaking, ending something, not exactly wars, but conflicts between different like little clusters of animals. They'll use sex as a way of making peace. Um, um, True story.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting.
Animals are
Um,
interesting to observe.
so reptiles, there's no rape. But I wait a minute, I'm like, I think I've seen a National Geographic where an animal will try and assert dominance over another of its
So
kind.
yeah, yeah, 100%. So what I'm saying with that, there is no like, in a sense, everything they do is rape. The only thing that they have is the thing we would call rape. That's why in the reptile world, you don't say, "Oh, I got raped." It's like, "Oh, sex happened to me," or I did sex to something, some other.
Yeah.
So but you only have rape when there's some other context other than rape, in your species. But if that's the
Mm,
only thing you have, it doesn't make sense to call it rape then.
yeah. I see what you're saying. It's non-consensual.
Yes, consent is irrelevant in the reptile
Non-consensual
world.
sex would be
Yeah.
equated as rape. Okay.
Yeah, dominance is your proof of consent. Physics allows it.
Mm. Well, I mean, yeah, we can definitely do a deep dive even into like dominatrix type. Um, is it masochism? Or I don't know what it is. Is it a said it is a
Uh,
form of
you can
masochism?
it has more to do with the power dynamics, and which I learned through this rabbit hole that you're getting to honor this very core part of you, which can feel so like liberating actually. Um, because otherwise, there's this whole depth of you that is like neglected and like unexpressed, unexplored and unexpressed.
Unexplored. Hmm, hmm.
Yeah, and they're kind of like left behind, and then you're like, oh, something feels empty. I feel like I'm not being true to myself, yada yada. And then in
Right.
different contexts, people can explore things that are like part of their very real animal nature.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, I've lived long enough to see all of it. And not personally, but I have, and I've always found that sex exploration is a bit fascinating. Is it's fluid, like you were saying, it's not so concrete. And that's always been yeah, a subject of interest. So for sure.
Yeah. And then, so what's key about these things I found is to allow there to be room for exploration so that you don't need to abandon your logic or
Mhm.
abandon your cortex and or abandon your empathy to explore these very core drives. Because
Yeah.
when people make these rigid judgment systems
Mm.
of like what's good, what's bad, and then there's the part of someone's nature who ends up in the bad pile. They're like, oh my God, I think I have to leave all logic behind, leave my community of like co-thinkers
Right.
behind, leave
Right.
empathy behind to be able to, in a sense, empathize with this part of myself that is otherwise neglected.
Mm. Very true. Very true. That's Yeah, it's definitely worth exploring. It's just very insightful. I'm trying to remember if I've done, obviously within the time frame of my relationship, we have explored um sex within the confines of marriage, um and what that looks like in a healthy state, but also not too like rigidness, right? So, yeah. But then I'm trying to remember if I did explore like fetish, kink, dominant things like that. I didn't get too into it. I like to read all aspects on it. Um, because it is psychological at the end of the day. So, um, and then it's also emotional because there's chemicals involved as well, right? Like we got oxytocin and dopamine, which is like the bonding chemicals and things like that. And I guess I've always found it a bit interesting that how people are unable to parabond. And so I was like,
What's
ooh,
that? Parabon?
like when you don't really bond to, sorry, I live over an Air Force base. So, they're doing some flybys. Just how people can have multiple sex partners without being, um, attached to them.
Right, right. Yeah. And you can't understand how they do that, you said?
Yeah,
Or
I don't understand, not the detachment, because detachment is good, right? I think I consider myself like I'm not attached to so many things. Um, people unsexual, right? Not having sex with everybody, but like how they're able to do that. Then I guess we can tie that in with the rape because it's like you don't have any emotional ties to this person, and then the victim and the person, like there's no emotional attachment, and that to me is like a part of the primal psychological that I don't understand. I don't understand, and it's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah, so there's different forms of it. There's, I think, more healthier forms of it, and then there's like less healthier forms of it. I think overall the less healthy form is a lot more common from what I've seen, and it runs on like an apathy layer.
Mm,
Um, and um, and if you like speak with someone, they won't even call it apathy. It'd just be like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's just a fun moment. But like when I've done deep dives with people who have had that like behavior pattern, uh, I've noticed that their attachment even to caring for themselves or being true to themselves, that's also not there. So in a sense,
mm,
uh, the things that I would have as non-negotiable values, they're
mhm,
willing to negotiate or they need to negotiate for the sake of avoiding things that I think I would call deeply uncomfortable. They would call it like it gives me a panic attack.
mm.
And right, yeah, being with your truth like is a very can feel like a life-ending or super dangerous thing. So then you have to not care about some things, and if you spend a lot of time not caring you lose sensitivity and then you're living in a more shallow um,
Right.
place, which
So,
then
right.
grants you the
So
option.
so basically, like, I have done some studying on, like, the porn and prostitute psychology.
Mhm.
Because we've seen reformed prostitutes or reformed sex workers, and really what that was a suppression of some type of psychological trauma, and then you put in addiction, which is a coping mechanism. So what we find too in that industry is there's a lot of addiction, and so what addiction is like a numbing agent that allows for the detachment theory. So it does make sense. But then again, our empathy, right? We have to apply empathy to these people because they're coming forth with their stories. And it's really fascinating to see somebody transform from such an extreme thought and action and then kind of come out whole. So I do love that work like with women, how they've been entrenched in some type of sex trafficking or, the porn industry or prostitution or just any type of sex work, period. So, personal experience, my older sister she started out as a ringside girl, and then she transitioned in more into like the nightclub sex worker um sex work type, and I saw it firsthand. But then it wasn't until later that I remembered that she did have some really deep psychological wounds from childhood. So my sister was really a pivotal point for me to kind of study and empathize because I loved her. And I love her, and she was just so beautiful. But the things that she would do would just I was like, wait, what? you know? But then again, she was an addict as well. So it just made sense to me why she went into the line of work that she did and how she was able to cope with the amount of trauma that she was still inflicting on herself as an adult. So yeah, I did see firsthand the destructiveness of that. So, and then I found it fascinating. So whenever I see a woman that kind of came out of that lifestyle, I really empathize with them. And if I'm able to put my arms around them and give them a big hug for all the courage that they had. So there's that.
Ask how your sister is doing now.
um, we haven't had contact for quite some time. The last time I saw her was probably 4 or 5 Christmases ago, and it was at my mom's house, and it was just I just loved on her, and just she's my big sister, and so I just, loved her. She's got a lot of work. She definitely has a lot of work ahead of her. Um but, you know, she's doing the best that she can given the circumstances. And so, of course, whenever I do see her, we don't have these deep conversations. It's just very affectionate. I'm just very affectionate with her, and I just tell her I love her, and it's good to see her. And yeah, and just kind of catch her up on my life and whatnot. So yeah, she's. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
I could reach out to her any given time, but it is very. It's just very delicate. Let's just say
Yeah,
that it's very
yeah, for
delicate.
sure. Yeah, challenges of the mind, like it's essentially what these things are. We call them wounds and traumas. But they're like these are like challenges of the mind. Um, they're, I think, among the least uh, understood and easily solved in current society. Like, I was once thinking about it in terms of like public services. Like, if you're in the US, I'm in Netherlands, we both have, when you have a home, you get water just coming into your home because there's pipes there, and the city has solved for how to get water into these pipes. And same with like gas, electricity, and there's like some basics that we have figured out on how to make available and distribute. The thing we call mental health, we haven't yet, not really, at least not to the same extent that we have when it comes to physical goods and services, or like how to work with the material world. Like, to certain extents we have, but then to certain extents we haven't. And then sometimes like the paths we take to solve mental health challenges end up creating more mental health challenges. Yeah, it, yeah, it's a that's why it's been like such a genuine challenge and interest of mine as well. And why I think like individual exploration and research and experimentation with your home life is essential. You can't kind of just like, close your eyes and be like, all right, cool, what am I being fed via? Like, in a sort of an ideal society, you could trust your water supply, you could trust your food supply, you could trust your electrical supply, I guess. And then you could trust your mental health supply, which is kind of like your the content that you feed your mind with, the way systems are set up for you, the things you encounter, I guess, in school. Um, However, until then, you you can't blindly trust, and you need to like assess uh things for yourself, and then judge for yourself, like, uh is this going to be healthy to build my mind with? Does this make sense? Yeah, these things go through my mind because I know that like the traumas are like a they're the next step of unhealthy minds, like, or minds that are not put together cleanly, sharply. You can't help but, in a sense, like hurt yourself and hurt those that you love, actually. Um, yeah, thoughts, feelings,
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna open this door for
sure,
the dog. I'll be right back. Come on, dear
for
Minnie.
sure.
Come on, Minnie. Yeah. Um, it would be really fascinating. And I thought about this just with my sister, and I've always invited her, like, come and spend time with us. Like, just give me a week, like just come and hang out with a week. And like I would just, cook for her. accommodate her, and just like, I would introduce her to like our routine, like how we do things here in the house. And like, not, I guess, in a sense, not rehabilitate her, but help rewire some of her neural pathways into like health, right? And I was like, just come hang out. Like, I have a room for you. It's all set up. It's nice and clean because I know she's very particular like me. And like, I would get up early in the morning and like make her coffee and things like that. And like, we would take walks together, and it would just, I'm sorry. It would just give me an opportunity to connect with her and tell her that, that I love her and that everything would be okay. And then I would really like to see her reconcile with her daughter, my niece, and her grandchildren. Um, so that is something that like I would really love to do with her. And it would just give me an opportunity to like, just pour into her all these things that I've learned, and then also tell her like how much of an inspiration like she's been to me as well. You know, um, So yeah, that's definitely something that's like in my heart, to help people. Um, because I know that there is a formula and there is a path, you know, out, or there is a path to wholeness. There is a path to healing. And then there's also a path of reconciliation. I would love to see that because I know how severe mental health and addictions and things like that impact relationships, and impacts communities, and it impacts society as a whole. So that's why like it's just like my passion, um for health, healing, and wholeness. I've always gravitated towards wholeness because it's really beneficial. It's benefited me tremendously. And I know that it's benefited the people I've come in contact with. Um, and, it's been beneficial to me being a mom as well. So, yeah. I know this kind of like, woo segue, but it still kind of ties into what we're talking about, I believe.
100%. It's the heart of it. And it's a very sweet thought you have there. It's a very sweet idea. Would be very cool for your sister, and if not your sister, for someone to like for you to like have that make that real. That would be it's a very sweet thought, and I
Mm,
think for the right person at the right time, very beneficial.
yeah.
And yeah, definitely like it can help ease. It's kind of like a retreat experience, right? A
Mhm,
very
mhm,
personalized one. um, Help ease the neural pathways that the person usually has. So just by the fact that they're not being utilized because you're in a different environment with
mhm.
a different person around you,
Yeah.
and then new neural pathways that are getting activated because of the things that you have like built yourself and your environments with,
Mhm.
and the routines that you would sort of like go through with them. Yeah, it can be very, very helpful actually, and also relaxing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like a person can be also not necessarily even needing healing, but just a break, like from their own busyness, I guess. And
Mhm.
it can be very fun,
Mhm.
and like relaxing to just have
Yeah.
that kind of experience.
Yeah, because we've seen those kind of retreats, be helpful to people. I know that they have them, they're very expensive, these retreats where you go and they teach you meditation, they teach you like yoga, if you're into yoga, like stretching and breathing practices, and just like a very serene type of environment, which I know is right, it's conducive to um mental health. And I actually, that's funny you say because I had a friend recently like come to the house or whatever. We've been getting to know each other, and she's like, you remind me of like somebody like a Japanese lifestyle, like a Japanese philosophy. And I was like, hey, that's like a big compliment because I really love the Japanese philosophy. They're very considerate people. They're very detail oriented, very meticulous, very smooth, and like they're the way that they navigate life. I mean, we could just look at the geishas and we can look at how they make tea. And then another fascinating fact that I had heard recently about Japan and their work model, they have the young people who come to work early will park a lot further in the parking lot and will walk to the door and reserve those parking lots um, for the older people in the job so they don't have to walk so far. And I was like, I love that philosophy. I love that. I mean, Japan just overall has a great respect for their elders, and they're very honorable people. And so their philosophy is just, I love it. I don't know if it's called Sukando or something like that, where it's basically like a Japanese minimalism, like a philosophy that they implement. And we had a Japanese exchange exchange student. My parents brought in when I was a kid. I'm trying to remember how long she stayed with us, but she had brought some like really cool things from Japan, like Japan art. She brought like some silk, like handkerchiefs, and she brought me like this little Japanese doll and some Japanese food like rice crackers and stuff. And like I was just like, like I'm a geek. So like I was just like her little shadow for like the whole time she was with us, like teach me more, show me more. And she was just very fluid in her presentation. She would come to the table with tea and just like place it down gently. And, she was very meticulous, like how she would bathe in our bathroom, very like she would bring the towel like over her arm, and she's just very, like, graceful, very elegant, and then she would write Japanese, and have you ever seen, like, Japanese writing? It's like art. So it's just, like, a lot of flares and a lot of, like, old type scroll type writing, and then she was learning English, and her penmanship was beautiful. So I remember learning a lot from her being in our home, how, like, elegant and graceful she was and things like that, and then so I was like, "Hey, why not? Why not adopt, a Japanese mentality?" You know what I mean? And it's very, considerate, and I pride myself in teaching my children consideration. So if we go to the supermarket or whatnot, and there's, like, a shopping cart in the parking lot, we will take that shopping cart and put it in its proper place, or we'll walk it up to the supermarket and place it in the basket and things like that. So it's just like little things like that that I find really fascinating and interesting because we can learn a lot from different cultures and we can learn a lot of different philosophies and lifestyles and implement in ourselves and make it a beautiful thing. So that was
Yeah,
random, but
no, absolutely. Japanese breakfast has been one that's caught my eye for a long time.
Mm,
And I know they can have different breakfasts for sure, but like they fish with I think it was like a bit of rice, seaweed, the miso soup. Um, I've never made myself a proper Japanese breakfast, but like a very like duct taped approach to Japanese breakfast. But it's like it feels so good for my system because it's like nourishing and at the same time light.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Their
they're
diet is very healthy as well, very, very healthy. Well, you're in the Netherlands, isn't what is the most fascinating part of the culture that you've encountered there in the Netherlands, and what kind of traditions and things have you adopted into your own life?
yeah. So I came here because of the legality of psilocybin. That was
Mm,
the
mhm,
primary reason why I came here.
mhm,
And I also had long-term desire to come to this place that had this reputation of more direct people.
mm,
And I was like, oh, yes, please take me to wherever people are the most direct. And it's kind of funny. I actually see what they mean by that. Like on average, they are more direct for sure. It's just a part of the culture where they just say what they think,
Mhm.
which for me is so makes my life so much easier. The part that's funny is that I've had Dutch people tell me I'm too direct. I'm like, come on, man, you're the one with
Oh,
the reputation. You can't, don't do this to me. Like,
yeah.
um, uh, yeah, and the day I got off the plane, I immediately saw one thing caught my eye, which was the fitness level on average. And I come from Canada, and I remember when I was in the US, the fitness level of the US had caught my eye, which is a couple sizes bigger, at least it was, than Canada. But then when I came here, it was on average, more fit than Canada. And I was like, huh, that's so interesting. And
Mhm.
that was immediately caught my eye. And of course, everyone's on bikes all the time. So people are biking all the time. We have the best biking pathways. So there has been like legitimate investment in facilitating
Nice.
biking also.
Very nice.
Um, yeah, so that's really cool. So people are like, it feels like in some ways, physically and psychologically, on average, a bit more fit, at least in my experience.
Mhm. Mhm. I agree. I think that there's the European concept, the model for physical health is really, really well thought out. So like you're saying over there, they're very nature oriented, which we know when you're out in nature, you're more than likely like your heart rate goes down, your breathing patterns are steady, you're just more in the present, and nature is so healing, so we like grounding, so I ground as much as I can throughout my house because it's just us, and like sometimes we'll go out in the backyard and just like make mud, you know, and just do like little mud prints, and put our feet in the mud and just kind of feel what that feels like, and whatnot. And it's really cool. So if it's raining, and if it's weather permits, we can go outside barefoot in the rain and walk down these little pathways barefoot and just kind of experience like rocks and mud and birds and things like that under our feet as much as we possibly can, right? So it is important. Nature is by far is definitely healing because they say if you're in your head, you tend to overthink a lot and you're a hermit, go outside, get some fresh air, get some sunlight, and it does wonders. So, and then you pair in activity with nature, like bike riding and things like that. It's like so healthy and so helpful and rehabilitating and therapeutic at the same time. So, yeah. That's really cool that you guys get to enjoy that over there. And Dutch people in and of themselves are really fascinating people. Super cool.
Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
find fascinating?
Well, just like their philosophy, and they live a very slow paced life as well, don't they? Or do they
Relatively. Relatively,
relatively
yeah.
do
Yeah.
they I think your guys' birthing model out there is really healthy as well. I think that you guys have
It's
really
amazing.
you have
Yeah.
a lot of home births, and the breastfeeding rates out there are like really
Yeah.
high.
So, Cece, I was blown away by this. They have this thing here where you get government paid for.
Mhm.
There's a specific job where this like woman will come and for like the first few days or something, or maybe even a week after you give birth, she comes and like just comes over,
Oh,
helps
yes.
around the house
Yes.
and to help with the transition.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, you mean a doula or like they help with the birth? It's like, no, no, that's a separate thing. This one is just for the purpose of
For
helping.
postpartum,
Yeah,
for like a
yeah,
postpartum midwife kind of.
yeah. They help with like laundry, dishes, food.
Oh,
If you have other
no
kids, like with
way.
groceries. Yeah, like
Oh,
the little stuff that like actually can put a lot of physical toll
on a new
on
mom.
the yeah.
I
So.
love
Uh,
that.
Yeah, and it's like government paid for, so like you
Mm,
have that as a part of just being a
mm.
citizen.
That's
Is
the
that
healthcare.
nuts?
That's the healthcare
Yeah, yeah,
model. Yeah.
yeah.
I love that.
Crazy. I think
I
it's super
love
cool.
that. Listen, I'm gonna have to research that and see what the specifics on that are, because you guys, there is really something to that. Absolutely. Um, that's amazing. You know, that would be a dream of mine to have something like that in place. So the birth pioneer that I like is Ina May Garden, and I believe she has something of a midwifery farm in Tennessee somewhere, which they kind of do that, which is back to the primal village. Like, you know, we have adult who kind of teach and learn and guide children of the village. And so we have like these responsible adults that kind of come together and nurture the village. And I love that aspect. I love that model. The Netherlands, I think it's so conducive to the mom and the newborn. And as a community, right? Like we want to come and come alongside the mom and the newborn and, hey, do you need laundry? Do you need a meal train? Do you need cleaning? Do you need, like, what is it that you need? Because in that moment of transition, the mother from, you know, a caterpillar to a butterfly is a really, really special time in a woman's life, that transformative phase. And to have other women come alongside you and just like support you and nurture you and love on you is so conducive to mental health, physical health, and it puts you on the right path. So I love that, Surena. That's so cool. So imagine me being a midwife on a bike in the Netherlands with my
Would be
little
very
bag
cool.
with my little backpack of goodies.
Would be very, very cool.
That would be so cool. Yeah. And then what about traditions as far as food and things like that? Have you implemented over there?
They don't have a cuisine here.
Mhm.
And when I learned that, I was like, ah, I understand why historically they were so into trade because they have nothing like good here, food wise. So they just go everywhere and then like bring in all the good stuff from the older cultures. So like thankfully, I get access to like every. They do have like I am being I'm being they if a Dutch person's listening, they're having a fun time hearing this. Dutch people will laugh at this themselves. That they do have like a couple things, but it's like not really. So, and like I come from also the Middle East myself,
Mhm.
before Canada. So like there is a cuisine, you know, like a very I don't know if you've ever had Persian food, but it's very rich food.
A
So
lot of spices, a lot of saffron.
yes, things are slowly cooked.
Delicious.
Yes,
Mm.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm super biased when it comes to
I
judging
bet.
Dutch food.
I bet. I've heard of tadig.
Yes.
I
What do you know
love
about?
rice. I
Oh my
love
goodness.
rice.
So
My
funny that you know
friend's
what I mean.
she's actually gonna make me some tadig, and there's like a soup that you guys, it's like a, what's the name of the soup? It's like has everything in it. It's like a thick broth type soup. It's a
Oh,
Persian soup.
the it's been so long since I've spoken Farsi. This is nuts.
I think it is Farsi, yeah.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
It's a soup, but you guys cook, you have to cook it all day long. It's like a long process. And it has,
Yes,
I believe, lamb in it or some other meat, but it has like potatoes and it's like a stew.
right. Yeah, with the bones, I believe.
Yeah.
Kelle paçe, is
Hmm?
it that one?
Which
Is
one?
it cat?
Mm, mm-mm.
Okay, no, never mind.
Anyways, I know what you're talking about. So yeah, you would be really biased to Dutch food if you're Persian.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Like, I'm trying to remember or think that if I saw Gordon Ramsay do a Netherland exploration of their cuisine, because he, I don't know if they forage a lot out there, if there's like foraging where that they do. But yeah, I'm trying to remember. I know that there was an episode that I saw where he did go to like some European country and there was like in the Shires or something, and there was a lot of foraging and fish. So
Right.
that'd be really interesting
Yeah.
to look
I
in.
mean, yeah, like close by. Geographically, Europe's interesting in coming from North America. Like in North America, we have Canada and the US, and that's like it, right? Like in terms of countries, of
Mhm.
course, even we say the US, but like US is like so many different subsets put together, you know, it's so vast. So when I came to Europe, it was kind of a thing, like obviously I'd seen it on the map, but it's very different that like I can go to the train station here in my small city, and then if I take the right train and stay in it long enough, I'll be in Germany, and then the same train, or like I get switch trains, transfer, and then I'm like in any of the France, it's just like in a few hours, basically.
Oh,
You can just be, um, it's not nuts.
transported into another little country.
Yeah, yeah, and
Oh,
it was like vastly different cuisines, language, culture,
culture. Oh,
and yeah. So I found that very interesting. Also, just the that part of the Europe experience.
oh, that sounds amazing. Oh my God, I'm so happy for you that you get to do that. I can imagine
Yeah,
like, oh,
I don't though. I actually like I get so happy doing my own little things either at
yeah, of
home or
course.
going into like the local nature areas.
Mm,
I rarely ever need to go far to like explore something. I do
yeah.
sometimes like look up like where is a cool trail somewhere. Um,
Yeah, but to take a train
that's
to Germany, to take a train to
yeah,
France, what?
yeah, yeah.
That'd probably be like a once a month, like, weekend thing for me if I was there.
I can totally imagine that being a
So
thing.
don't take that for granted, Serena. That's your homework, right? You gotta go out there,
I
take the
will
train, and take some beautiful photos and
for
share
sure.
that. That'd be cool. But
For
I also
sure.
like the concept that you don't really have to go very far either, that everything you have is within, you know, the proximity of what you have. That's also a beautiful thing too, that you don't have to commute and, go to the city and do all that. I do like convenience too of proximity of necessity essentials, right? We need our
Yes.
essentials,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
really cool.
I think if there were like people on X that I connected with and became friends with who were around Europe, that would be like reason for me to go somewhere.
Mhm,
Even
mhm,
if they're in like some really remote place in some village somewhere, I'd be like,
mhm,
cool. But like I'm very people oriented.
mhm,
So like if I connect with people, that's a reason to go on an adventure. Um,
mhm.
if I don't, it has to, I don't know, I have to be like in the mood for like a cool hike or something.
Of course, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Tourist stuff don't hook me at all.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. I'm like,
Yeah.
yay,
Yeah. No, I
the
get it.
thing that everyone else has seen. Great. Like
Yeah,
other
it's
people have seen it
fun.
for me, so
I have
wonderful.
friends, I've made friends on X who live in Estonia, Romania, uh, what's the capital of Germany?
Berlin?
Berlin. I believe she's close to Berlin. And then another friend in Transylvania, Romania, where like they have like the Gothic chapels and things like that. It's been really cool. Um,
Cool.
yeah. So I have made some friends in that part of the country. Um, and of course they say, my home is your home. Like, yeah, it'd be really cool. But the Netherlands sound really, really, really fascinating. That's really cool, Serena. So thank you for sharing that. That's so cool.
For sure.
It's like in New York, you can go to New York, you can go to all the tourist sites, or if you really want to get a taste of New York, you go to the outskirts, you go to the boroughs, you go to the places, the authentic Italian places, or Irish food, or Chinese food, or whatever you want. So that's what New York is to me. It's very cultural. It's like a one-stop shop. you know? You can take the train to Brooklyn. You can go eat Jamaican food. You can take the train down to Little Italy and have Italian food, or you could take the train down to Canal Street and get Chinese food, or you can go back up to Queens and Little Columbia and have Colombian food. Um, yeah, or you can go to parts of Harlem and get like good Puerto Rican food, or you can get really good um, Spanish food, like down south, like grits and collard greens and whatnot, right? In Harlem. So that was always like so fun and fascinating to me that I would always explore the city. So yeah, it's fun. But
Yeah,
now I'm here in the desert. I'm a bit of a recluse. So, but that's cool. What
very
else?
cool.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything you'd like to explore while we're here?
Um, let's see. So I have these books. I shared my highlight with Susan Cain, which was really cool. And then obviously, I am reading Dr. Gabor Mate's book again, Hold On to Your Peers. And I actually connected with another homeschool family on X that they have a podcast, and they're actually reaching out to Dr. Gabor Mate and Dr. Newfield to kind of do an exploration on their book on their podcast for homeschool, and I thought it was really cool. So I was like, let me see if I can get in on that. And it would be really cool to ask Dr. Mate some pivotal questions. So that might be something lined up later on, which would be really cool because the whole peer orientation thing has always been fascinating to me. um, and then there's a chapter about cultivating even familial relationships if you don't have like close by family, and how to cultivate and foster relationships with other adults that kind of will come alongside your children and mentor them as well. So I like that model. It's going to make me come out of my comfort zone a bit more and kind of put myself out there a little bit more to socialize and vet people who I deem to be, appropriate, for us to, like, because you might want to do like date night. So we tell families, hey, if you ever need it, they have little kids, if you ever need a date night or you need some time, bring the children over to our house. And then, in that time we're fostering healthy relationships, um, which is a healthy model, I believe. So I like that model. Um, and then, yeah, if we get an opportunity to have Dr. Gabor Mate come on a podcast to talk about his peer orientation and why it's important and how that pertains to homeschool life, I'm all about it. So I really geek out. So I'll
Awesome.
let you know how that works out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mm.
Thanks for making time, Cece,
Mm. Yeah,
to
of
connect
course.
with me, and especially in this context. This is kind of like my own way to connect with peers and also vet as well. Uh,
Mm, mhm, mhm.
the thing I sort of like look for is, do I feel easy spending time with this person? And to what extent do I feel like I need to have my guards up?
Mhm.
And I think like the parent thinking from that perspective is an interesting metric. Like how easy would I feel if I wasn't there and this person was with my child? That's a very high bar. Uh, and those are, but like, hey, you better kind of makes sense to me. Like you better like think of all your friends in that way. Like why would you want like you should only kind of like keep your you would want all your friends to pass that filter too. Otherwise, what are you doing? Um
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely. Yeah. Vetting would be good, but I also would, this is new. This is all new territory for me, Serena, is inviting people over to my home, into my space. And just so they can kind of, right, it builds trust. It builds like a doorway of saying, hey, we have full transparency. I'm home. I have two little children. I'm married. And these are our structures. And then these are our standards. So you can make a decision whether or not you find me and my family, as a source of, help, or just anything, any availability. And then in turn, right. So, and then in turn, like, hey, we connect with like-minded families, and we're kind of all in the same community, and we all just kind of help each other out, which I think is it's beneficial. And so that's going to be one of my exercises in my new territory. because I could be really non-social and just be really protective of just the 4 of us. But I'm finding that the more I learn and the more knowledge I have and I'm confident in these areas, then the more, likely I am to extend myself and extend the resources. So, yeah. And
Awesome.
we've talked about that. You were talking about me finding my niche, and maybe, exploring more with moms who are on the other end, or like the beginning stages of parenting, the beginning stages of marriage, and the beginning stages of motherhood, and to mentor them and come alongside them and support them in all these structures and resources that I've been learning and how I've implemented them and how they've been successful for me. So yeah, that'd be really cool too. And yeah, and it's also a good vetting process, like you saying. So I'll, keep you informed, and I'm sure there'll be some aspects where I where I need your help as well.
For sure. I mean, I would, uh, I think that the one area where I'm genuinely handy, like I'm handy in a lot of areas, but like you can solve problems in a lot of ways. But I feel like the more on the unique end or rarer one is the conflict resolution part,
Okay.
where when you run into conflicts, um, I am available for having it up your sleeve as a because then you can kind of like have fun with um, exploring, friendships and being yourself, connecting. Because like the reason why we don't do that is basically because of conflict, and because they can be quite taxing, draining, and sometimes even destabilizing if it's like significant enough. But if like you can have uh, a support system in a sense that
Yes.
you can have them be resolved in some way, or at least be supported through so that you're not destabilized, even if there is something significant, and then also reap lessons from it so that it's not just, oh, we got through it. It's like, no, 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 we grew through it.
Yes,
So that's like we're in a better place because of the challenge rather than just, oh, we survived the challenge.
absolutely.
I find that to be quite neat. So I love having my friends' backs with that.
You've
Yeah,
definitely had my back in that, and I appreciate you, and I did glean a lot from our conversations with conflict resolution, which I would yeah, there's always something there to explore. There's always something there to grow from, and we what is it? We grow through it. Right? Not just go through it, or we don't just passively, put these things under the carpet and no, 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 we want to pull back the layers, we want to pull out the carpet, sift through the rubble. What is it that we can find? How do we navigate and maneuver this area? Because communication is king. When there's a breakdown in communication, we see the fallout of that. So communication is huge. And how we communicate and learning other people's styles of communication, because there are different styles of communication as well, which I find fascinating. And I'm always up for it. I'm always up for learning something new, and I'm definitely always up for conflict resolution because that it will arise, and instead of running from it or shutting down from it or putting up barriers because you just don't want to deal with it, that's not healthy. So I admire you for that skill, and I respect you for that.